Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. I am one of your co-hosts, King Ajar,
What's up, everyone? I'm Billy.
and we have a lot to cover this week. We're gonna do a recap like we always do, but then we are going to present to our listeners and our viewers three top five categories. So, we've been kind of holding off on the top five for the last couple of weeks, but this week you're going to get our top five segments of the year, our top five matches of the year, and our top five wrestlers of the year. And this is setting up our award show, which is next week, and we are going to have multiple categories, and we're just going to give a singular person the award. So this is kind of the precursor to what you're going to get next week. But before we get there, we have some wrestling to recap, as I stated, and we're going to start at All Elite Wrestling. Last night on Collision, which was taped in, I believe, Manchester, our beloved CEO had an open challenge for a local talent. And that local talent happened to be Alex Windsor, and it was for the Rev Pro British Championship. And spoiler alert, our CEO now only has 10 belts, as she
Yep.
lost to Alex Windsor in a 9-minute sprint of a TV match. Sir, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I think like everyone, a little bit surprised. When you tape a show and it doesn't air for 4 days, but you have a fan base as tuned in as the crew is, uh, and something as big as this happens, it kind of makes its way through X. I don't think that there were very many Alex Windsor or Mercedes Moné fans that were going into yesterday's airing not knowing what happened. But it was fun to watch the match. Um, I feel better after seeing the match. You see that a match is 9 minutes, and you're kind of like, damn, really? A title change in 9 minutes? But Mercedes and Alex put some good work in. It was a sprint. I do wish they had a little bit more time, but I really love the finish. Really, really, really love the finish. And I think some of the stuff that happened after the match starts to tell the story that we're looking for. First off, props to Alex Windsor. I think she's been really, really good in AEW. I think her and Mercedes have very good chemistry. This pinning combination that she did was one of the best ones I've ever seen, actually. So not only in a vacuum was it great, but she hits this side Russian leg sweep that she then, when the opponent pops up, she hits like a sitting clothesline, and she hit it on Mercedes earlier in the match. So her and Mercedes go through. Mercedes got her in the statement maker. There's the roll through the ropes, and they kind of go back and forth. And then Alex gets her in the side Russian leg sweep again, but instead of throwing her back onto her back, she like tucks her head like tight and rolls her forward and kind of like pretzels her. And I mean, we got to suspend disbelief sometimes, and you could see like, oh, they could get their shoulder out easily. I actually think that like if you held someone in this position, they'd have a hell of a time getting their shoulders off the mat. It looks like it would have you pinned down no matter what no matter what you wanted to do. So, um, really, really cool. I had not seen that one. And then after the match, Mercedes kind of really clutching the TBS title. Um, as always with her, the facial expressions I think are some of the best ways that she portrays what she's going through, and top notch there as well. So 10 belts Monet at this point. Um, Foreshadowing is that the TBS title, is the baby. It should be the last one to go. And my bold prediction is CMLL will be the next one to go, or at least on a bigger stage. Before I kick it back to you, there is a little bit of, oh, she didn't lose it on a Rev Pro show. I get all that. It was in Rev Pro's backyard, right? They're in Rev Pro territory, Manchester. Alex Windsor is the um now a two-time Rev Pro champion, and she was the longest reigning Rev Pro British Women's Champion. So her winning this title back on AEW TV does a lot for her standing in AEW, which is where she's signed now. Um, it's the biggest audience Rev Pro could have had a title match in front of, not only on TV, but it was what 11,000 people in person. So I totally get it. I think Mercedes is actually going to continue to wrestle on some Rev Pro events. I would bet that she'll be over there wrestling on at least one this year still. So um, good piece of business, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with where they picked or the platform they picked for her to lose this title. The notion that she should have lost it in a Rev Pro event to Kanji. Everybody, I saw a lot of talk about that. Like, why isn't Kanji the one to beat her? Well, Kanji and her in canon in Rev Pro are friends.
Yep.
So for them to tell that story, they need to build it a little bit more. Like it can't just be Kanji betrays her friend. Like there's no story behind it. And I think that I still think there's a chance that Mercedes could beat Alex Windsor again for this title and then lose to Kanji. Like we don't know what the plans are for the title or the long-term booking. But I will say this, if I'm the Rev Pro promoter, I'm 100% agreeing to this. Like you just said, I'm going to get my title on the biggest possible platform I can, right?
Yep.
Because there's not a WWE show that Rev Pro's title is going to be appearing on. So this is going to be the biggest platform. Number two, Alex Windsor is a great pick to beat her because in the AEW crowd, they know Alex Windsor and they have a liking to her because a lot of people wanted to see Alex Windsor beat her in the first time they had the match.
Yep.
So you're giving the we talked about it last week, people who paid the exorbitant sums of money to see Cena's retirement and they wanted to see him win. Well, these were much cheaper ticket prices, but they weren't cheap and it was a great crowd and Alex Windsor is from that part of the world. It's a great feel good moment, right? Like a, you got to see a title change. B, you got to see a all-timer lose her title to kind of an up-and-coming person. And three, oh, by the way, the up-and-coming person is from your backyard. I think it's a good piece of business. And I saw that AEW has a Winnipeg show. I think Mercedes is going to do the same gimmick. I think she's going to come out. She's going to say, "Yep, I want to put my title on the line against the local talent," and somebody from that Winnipeg company is going to beat her. And
Yep.
I think this is the way they're going to be able to say to all of the naysayers that this belt collector gimmick didn't do anything for people. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to get those titles on the biggest platform they're going to be on, and that's how they're going to help the independent shows that she has been going to. So,
She didn't win the title on a Rev Pro show, right? I mean, she won it in Japan,
mhm.
um, when she had the
Yeah,
NJPW
she beat
Strong
Mina
title.
Shirakawa in the Tokyo Dome.
Right. No one said, why did Mina drop the title not on a Rev Pro show, right? That didn't even come up because it made so much sense to people. But I think people get brain fog when it comes to Mercedes because they're looking for something to complain about. Um, I also think what's great about it is Alex Windsor is likely to be the most important, at least in the near future, homegrown Rev Pro talent on the AEW side of things, right? So Andy Quildon, who's the owner of Rev Pro, gets his title on AEW on an AEW show in a huge gate. So even locally, right? Like someone said to me, yeah, not that many people watch Collision. Okay, well, 11,000 people in Manchester. Now, some of them did not realize that Rev Pro had title. You know what I mean? Like th- just the backyard impact alone is a smart move for him running shows in that area, right? Because he raised the prestige of his title. Um, so I think it was a really, really smart thing to do. And Alex is she's the one that made it, right? Rev Pro, she's the longest reigning champion. She got signed by AEW. Now they have a bunch of younger women. Sapphire Reed comes to mind. She could sign with WWE one day and, be the next person on the mantle, but she'll never get to rep Rev Pro on WWE TV. And that's the difference, right? She'll never get to fly that flag if she signs with WWE. So Alex doing this on AEW TV was super smart.
When the person who messaged you said that nobody watches Collision, were they talking about in America or are they talking about in Europe?
I
Or
think in general, it was just like the audience wasn't that big. It's Collision,
uh, so yes, in America, but that's a wrong statement in England because AEW is on free TV. Because once the WWE went to Netflix internationally, the free TV, I think it's ITV, I think it's called. They picked up AEW. AEW has a much bigger audience in England than WWE does. A lot
And
more people watch W. That's why do you think AEW does so well in London, right? It's not an
yeah,
accident that they sell so many tickets in England because on a TV basis, they are easier to access than WWE. So not everything like there you could make a case that Tony should do half of his pay-per-views in Europe. Right?
absolutely.
You could make that argument because he's big internationally, right? Like they do big business in Australia, England, Ireland, etc. And so I don't, and again, with HBO Max, people can watch things on demand. People can
Yeah.
watch things in another day. So I don't, I think if we're looking at this as a terrestrial TV booking, this is like, oh, why did they drop the title on Velocity or something? Like it's not the same world we're in. So I think people have to kind of get out of that, oh,
Yeah.
it's like 1998. It's not the same thing. But I
And
think,
I
oh,
agree with you. The Europe as a territory, I think even though you were annoyed they changed times because you were going to the show,
yeah. Well,
uh,
that was
that
singular.
was personal, but we both agree that they should start their pay-per-views early because they have such a great set of roots in Europe. Fan reaction, fan buy, they sell out every show they go there at big numbers. It is a huge part of their piece of the pie on where their success is from. So,
I think a Saturday afternoon pay-per-view start time, independent from me having a previous commitment and I had to cancel and do some things, I actually liked it because I remember that night I was with two of my best friends. You know, we went to the event we were supposed to go to, then we went to the wrestling. We got there late though because of that. But afterwards, we had the whole night ahead of us to do stuff.
yeah,
Like if that started at 7 o'clock, we'd have got out at like midnight and we'd have been like, okay, we're tired. Like we want to go home, right? But we got out at like 8:20 and we still had the rest of the 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever we were in the that vicinity. So I like it. And I understand they did it for the WrestlePalooza thing, but like looking back on it, if I were AEW, I would do every pay-per-view on a
yep,
Saturday afternoon start time, like you said, for England, but also I think it's just better for the fans. Like AEW is the fan company, you know, that's kind of what they market themselves as. Better ticket prices, you get more bang for your buck. You don't just get 4 matches, you don't get 5 matches. And I think their pay-per-views are too long. And I think at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can stomach it because I can order it and then just watch it when I come home and I don't have to worry about it. So,
yeah,
but also on AEW,
yep.
we found out that now, while Mercedes lost this belt at World's End, she's going for another belt,
Yep.
which is her and Athena. And I believe their tag team name is the CE Overlords.
That is the unofficial name. Yeah, that's what X has decided their name
It
will be.
doesn't sound as good as like Charlexa or Rio, but it's cute. And they're going up against the current champions, the Babes of Wrath, and I do like that name because it fits them
I
perfectly.
love Babes of Wrath as a name.
But
It's
that's a
great.
great name, and they are fighting Willow and Harley Cameron, who are the Babes of Wrath, And that is because on AEW Dynamite, when they had the 3 hour show, they had an 8 person tag match. Marina Shafir, Megan Bayne, Mercedes Moné, Athena versus Harley Cameron, Willow Nightingale, Tony Storm, Mina Shirakawa. And so you had the Timeless Love Bombs teaming up with the Babes of Wrath against, the four I just previously mentioned. And the match was very specific, which is Athena and Mercedes double teamed Willow for the win, which was Athena hit, what is her move? What I know what it's called. What was it? I know what it was called in WWE. What is it called
The
now?
O face.
The O face into a nice single leg pinfall by Mercedes, hooking the leg. And you could tell that that was set up because Athena and Mercedes pinned the champs. So they get the title match. And that's kind of classic old school wrestling. And I'm excited for this match because I seriously don't know what the outcome is. Like everybody's like, oh, it's a given that the Babes of Wrath win. Are we sure? Like, could they flip the title just to have it flipped back? Like, who knows what they're gonna do? But I am looking forward to this match. I think it's going to be really good because they're going to beat Harley into a pulp. Willow's going to come in for the big hot tag, and I think we're going to get a good dynamic out of it. So, what are your thoughts? World's End.
Yeah, so I do go round and round. I mean, to me, it's one of those, is it so obvious that it's not obvious? Because it's like, no way they take the title off Babes of Wrath right now, right? They just got them. They're the inaugural champs. Um, the Boston Hug Connection version of my brain is sitting out there going, can't do that to the Babes of Wrath fans, right? Because I definitely thought the initial WWE Tag Team title reign was too short. And this is much shorter than that if they were to lose, right? So I think the real answer is this is the best tag team match that Tony can put together. That's not hyperbole. They already had the best tag team match of the tournament, right? Bar none. Nothing else was close to as good as this match. So I think Tony is just booking a double tap where he can say, Babes of Wrath were kind of surprise winners. The big upset was the first round. It was the best match. It was the most competitive match. And can they do it again? And like you said, they booked it for Mercedes to get a win over Willow. Really, Athena got the win over Willow and Mercedes got the pin. So I think the Babes of Wrath win. And I think it's part of the spiral story for Mercedes. Now it can be Willow pins her and um Willow wants a shot at the TBS title. It could be Athena gets pissed that Mercedes, blows the match for them. And maybe Athena is going to be the one to go after it. My only thing against it is I wish it doesn't make sense to me that Mercedes is starting to lose all these matches and no one in the locker room is like, "Hey, I want that TBS title." Right? She's so ripe for the picking. So I hate that there's not a TBS title match on this pay-per-view, but I think we're going to get that direction coming off of this match with them losing. Um, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but I like if Athena's the one to beat her, fine, but I don't like her beating her while she's still got the ROH title. So Tony's got some work to do on getting, some of these we need lin we need a women's title program, we need a tag title program, we need a TBS title program, we need an ROH program, and some separation there is the long-term thing. I get why that's not happening during this Continental Classic with all these men's matches, but I want to come into the new year with some separation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about it when I saw the way they did the pin, where Athena did the work, Mercedes took the pin, and it's like, is that the story?
Yep.
Which is, they win the tag belts because Athena's really doing the heavy lifting, but Mercedes is like the one taking credit for it. And then when they lose, it's because let's say Mercedes didn't help Athena and Athena gets pinned, and then Mercedes almost like, you're the loser. And then that's how Athena turns on her, and Athena is the one who beats her for the title. And along the way, Mercedes almost costs Athena the Ring of Honor title by accident. Like there's so many
Yeah.
intricate
They have
story
great chemistry too.
points.
So if that's a big story coming, that there's going to be a multi-layered version of it. I think the two of them are great in backstage segments. Obviously they wrestle well together. Um, they're two of the best in-ring performers out there. Um, even if it's just in-ring performances, how you feel with Athena, she can go in the ring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think this is a bad story, honestly. Like I think if Athena's the one to beat her, there's a story because she's already beaten Athena.
Yeah.
So it could weave into that. And I mean, let's be honest, they can cut pretty good storytelling promos. Um, like Athena can say, I was dumped on my rear. The old place cut me, sent me to die. I had to go to Ring of Honor. I had to work my way to AEW. And here you come in, you walk out, and you come in, you get all this money, you get right put to the top. And, for somebody like me who had to like work for it, I resent you. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do with this. It just depends on how they tell the story. And Athena beating her is not the worst thing in the world. In fact,
No.
I could make a case that Athena beating her at this point is the best thing for the next champion because Willow I know you've had the idea in your head for about a year and a half that Willow beat her, she beat Willow, and Willow being the person in the rubber match to beat her finally for the TBS title would be cool to get kind of the revenge. But I feel like they almost are saying to Willow, you're popular with the crowd, you and Harley have a thing. There's a merchandise component coming with the Babes of Wrath. The money is here with you guys as a team. So we're gonna leave you out of the singles world for now. And I think Athena is very over with the AEW crowd more than she is like with any other than in NXT, like any American WWE audience. So Athena beating her will get a huge pop and people will react in a positive manner to it. And nobody's going to look at Athena as somebody who's not worthy enough to beat her because Athena, again, I am on my own island. I am not the biggest fan, but most people have her in their top three or four women's wrestlers in the world. I don't, but a lot of people do, and a lot of AEW fans do. So you have to please them. I think Athena beating her is actually probably the story they're going with, but it's gonna take maybe next summer
Yeah.
because where are they doing? They're doing the next thing in England. The next,
All in. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think Willow actually might get the win over Mercedes, save for a later date, but there's a good argument to be made that this when Mercedes finally wins the world title, she won't do it as a baby face. Because you can either go down the path where she loses everything, you get the crowd behind her, and she finally wins, or she loses everything and she decides she's sick and tired of being a lone wolf because it's too hard, and she gets more vicious, more mean than ever, buys friends, essentially, protection, and then wins the title as a bigger bad than ever. And if that's the route they go when she finally wins the title, Willow is the absolute perfect person to take it from her for Willow's first title win at some point down the road. So, a lot of different angles they could go. Um, before, and it kind of pivots into Chris and Jamie. Tony Khan's got to figure out this thing where when he does this Continental Classic, he doesn't just stop telling women's stories thoroughly. the women are doing some really heavy lifting to make a 9 minute, 12-minute segment work. Uh, and they're good and they're making it work. But, Jamie Chris is a hell of a match, and we're getting backstage segments at this point. We got Chris is just not on TV enough for my liking, right?
I did. Now, is this something that was taped? Because I saw the clip where um Jamie speared Chris by mistake, but then wasn't like apologetic about it.
The clothesline. Yeah, that was
Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
Yeah.
that was part of the Wednesday show.
Okay. So the
But, you know, it's still getting just short time for a top title, the top title. And I think that match, it's kind of like the Tony Mercedes thing is like they're doing stuff, but there almost seems to be like a little bit of a they're not letting it be as big as it could be. And that goes back years. It goes back years and years with Tony and women's booking. I think you've said before the only woman star that he kind of lets fully flourish in that top role and get deep, deep, deep segments to tell their stories is when Tony has the belt.
yeah. And watching that eight-person match, I couldn't be more convinced that the Timeless Love Bombs not getting the tag belts was the right decision. They as a team,
100%.
they don't do anything for me as a team. The act is, I find
They're
that
diminishing to each
my,
other as a team, unfortunately, in my
yeah,
opinion.
I find the act very stale. And I think Tony is just better as a singles performer at this point. But yeah, I mean, the Chris and Jamie buildup has not been great at all. And my worry is I think the match will get a crowd reaction for sure. The crowd will be into that match at World's End. Okay, Chris beats her. Where does Chris go? Is it Tekla? That seems like the obvious next opponent.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, she's talking about doing intergender wrestling. She did an interview the other day where she said the number one thing she wants to do is win the TNT title. And like, I get it. And the multi-belt thing has become kind of in fashion, obviously, not just in AEW, but across all the companies. But um, yeah, that top title, we need good programs for that top title.
I
And we need better programs for the TBS title. Right now,
think
we get
yeah.
none.
Yeah, I think the Tekla is the next opponent for
Yeah,
Chris. And then after that, we'll see. But it feels like Chris is gonna have a long run.
yeah.
It feels like and she should. But again, to your point, with the Continental Classic, some of these matches the guys are out there having are like 20, 25 minutes. And, you know, he needs to prioritize making sure that the women get more time. And, it'd be nice for him after the Continental Classic to have a more heavier dose of the women. But again, he has conditioned his viewers for 6 years that women's wrestling is second tier to men's wrestling. He has done that. And Tony is a really good thing to have in wrestling. He's needed his money, his influence, what he brings to the table. But as a pure booker of women's wrestling, I don't think he's good. And the reason I say that is because of the time they allot to the women is always less. He puts them at the worst possible parts of the pay-per-view every time. And, other than Tony Storm, I've never really seen him tell a good story with any other women's wrestlers.
I
So, yeah,
I think the reason why Athena versus Mercedes was so well received, beyond the fact that it was an incredible match, is that was actually one of the times where the women presentation on the show, the way the announcers talked about them, the way the commentators talked about them, and the way the match was laid out, was the most that it ever felt like the way AEW men are treated. And what I mean by that is, this Kyle Fletcher Speedball Bailey match that they crushed it over the last week. I forget what show it was on. It was a great match. Crowd was in a frenzy. commentators were in a frenzy.
Mhm.
Wasn't for anything. It was a Continental Classic match, right? It wasn't for a title. It was for points in a
Yeah.
tournament. And and it was made to feel super important. And it was made to feel more important than some of these women's title matches that they have. And that's kind of the disconnect. Athena Mercedes, because it was part of a tournament, it was given time um, on a TV show for them to do their thing is why it felt so big. And we just don't get that enough. We need to get that more often. And Tony, it's a blind spot for him,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it
So
is because he's an old school NWA type booker, and in those worlds, women's wrestling didn't really matter. And I've always truly believed that if he didn't have sponsors and television partners who, have told him, and I know this, hey, the women draw, like, you invest something into women's wrestling. I feel like he would have a 100% men's wrestling show because with Tony Storm, I think he loved the character of Tony Storm. I'm not convinced that he loved the wrestling matches of Tony Storm because other than the Mercedes match, did she ever get that kind of time?
no.
So, that's where I say that. And so let's pivot to WWE.
Yep.
So WWE this past, they had two shows. Okay, so there are things that I'm sure our listeners already know happened because the WWE is doing like this taped schedule where they taped this past Friday's SmackDown before last Monday's Raw, and then they've already taped this Monday's Raw, and I think the next live show they have is is it the SmackDown after Christmas, or is that already taped? That's taped too. No.
SmackDown After Christmas is taped
Yeah.
this coming Friday. Yep. The next live show is the Monday after Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to be cognizant of not giving spoilers because there are people, and one of our biggest supporters, and I'll shout out Chen, I was messaging her and I said, Chen, did you see what happened, with Liv? And she's like, no, I don't want to see it. Don't tell me. So for that, we will not give away the spoilers. We will
Yep.
just recap what has actually happened on TV. So we have not talked about this, and I think we should talk about it a little bit after, which is the NXT kind of debacle,
Oh
which
yeah.
which was a hot story. But let's get to the main roster stuff. So on Monday night, Raw, we had Stephanie Vaquer defending her title against Raquel Rodriguez.
Yep.
Um, this match was good. I liked it. But again, the WWE has a Stephanie Vaquer problem that they are 100% responsible for.
Yep.
They have told the audience this woman has one move that you should care about. And by the way, when she does it, you will cheer louder than you cheer for anything else on the show. But the rest of the match is building up to a spot. And they have conditioned her fans, people who have her signs in the crowd and everything, to believe that. And so when you watch a Stephanie Vaquer match now, there's no heat until the Devil's Kiss. I think it's a shame. I think they have taken one of the best women's wrestlers in the world and neutered her to a move that, I mean, look, let's call it what it is. She is a very attractive woman, and there is nobody who thinks that more than I do. But it's sad because she's much more than the Devil's Kiss. Like I went back and I watched because we were doing our matches of the year, and I went back and I watched her versus Mercedes twice this week. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she could do that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot she could do, a
The
springboard, arm
the
drag.
rope work and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
totally forgot she could do these things because not since NXT has she been able to do any of it other than maybe the EO match. And so I don't know how they're going to fix it. I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can fix it with Stephanie. Number one, you could turn her heel, and her character is she pretty much is Ivy from Right to Censor. She comes out, black dress pants, white dress shirt. I'm the best professional wrestler. Like she should really be the female Gunther. That's how I would do the angle, which is she comes out and she's not about, showing herself off like, hey, I'm a beautiful woman, but you're going to pay attention to my matches and I'm going to beat all your favorites in the process. That would be good. I don't think they're going to do that with her. They have
Yeah.
too much money invested in her as a babyface. She's doing DUI ads. So they have too much invested in her. But I will say the one saving grace from the Monday night thing, the Nikki Bella involvement was good because I think Stephanie cut her best main roster promo since her interview at Evolution, which is behind me here. And it wasn't even on TV, it was backstage. She threw something down, and in Spanish, she cursed out Nikki and basically said, I'm going to end your career.
Yeah.
That was a great promo, and I need to see that version of her on TV more. I need to see the fire, I need to see the passion, and I need them to agent her matches where they recondition the audience to give a crap about other things other than the Devil's Kiss. And I almost think that to her at this point, the Devil's Kiss should be a move she does not use to condition the audience. That's how I feel. So, what did you think of that match?
Yeah, I think, they're certainly not going to turn her heel. Though that would be, one way to fix it. I think the way that they're going to have to fix it as a baby face is just a complete disposition change. I think Monday was a good start. Hopefully they're going down that direction. You use the word fiery. Um, I just need her to be pissed off at people crossing her. You know what I mean? I think the crowd would accept her as a little more violent than most baby faces, if that makes sense. As long as you have a heel worthy of being a little, beat up. And Nikki and Raquel are kind of playing that part for her right now. So I'd like to see her as a little bit more of a frustrated, angry baby face. Even if over a short period of time, that could recondition the audience. Because the devil's kiss is a move that you do when you're in complete control and kind of like not as worried about your opponent beating you. But I feel like if you have an opponent that you're in there and they're dangerous to you, you're going to stick to more of the physical moves. And if they tell a couple matches like that with her springboard moonsault, the kind of what's the thing where she does the arm twist and kind of does the bounce off the ropes thing. I mean, that will get oohs and ahs in a WWE crowd the more she does it. So I Monday told me that they see it. Monday told me that now I don't think they're going to get rid of the Devil's Kiss because WWE is not going to stop saying yeet if everyone's saying yeet. You know what I'm saying? And that's their version of yeet for her. But I do think for her to have a better championship run and have a better overall presentation that they want the crowd to be into more than just that. I think they see it and they're starting to make some hopefully some changes that will help. I um I thought Monday was the most compelling she's been since she's been the champion.
Yes, that I
Yeah.
agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I agree with. I think that it's a good step in the right direction. And hopefully they can maintain it and keep the momentum going. I had an
Hey,
idea about the Devil's Kiss.
can I just throw some out there real quick just after just saying what I said out loud? If anyone thinks we're just hating on Stephanie, it's not that at all. She's literally one of the most compelling wrestlers in the world, and you almost have to go out of your way to make anything that she does boring or not get a reaction. That's why we're so flabbergasted that we continue to talk about this because the kids say aura. She's just so compelling and so good, and she moves like a star, and they've reduced it to a move, and it's frustrating. And that's why we keep talking about it.
I also don't understand how anybody could listen to this specific podcast and say that, like I want, if it was up to me, I would want Stephanie Vaquer to have been my number one wrestler in 2025 because I
Yeah.
could talk about her for another 30 minutes. Like I Stephanie Vaquer is one of the two women that right now I could have gone to a show in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, which was Monday Night Raw, and I didn't go because they didn't advertise anything previous to what was going to be on it. And I regret it because on that show, I would have seen Stephanie wrestle and Io wrestle, and the ticket prices came way down. And Rio Rancho is like 3 hours from where I live. So, like, I want to pay to see Stephanie Vaquer. Like I want to actually spend my own money to see her in person because she's that compelling to me. And yeah, look, aesthetics have a lot to do with it. I will not take my eyes off of the screen if she's on it, but at the same time, I liked her as a professional wrestler first before I got kind of the WWE did such a good job of making the aura of her stick out so well in NXT. Like when she was working CMLL and New Japan and even AEW, she was a great wrestler and she looked, really good. But the WWE, they took that and then they exponentially put it on steroids, where it's like, oh my God, who is this woman, right? Like she's on my
Yeah.
screen. I can't take my eyes off. Like I said, I did a whole parallel that she was the 1991 Julia Roberts or 1990 Julia Roberts, where the first time you watch Pretty Woman, and it's just like the woman hits you like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
who is this person? So I like what I see, but again, the WWE falls into this trap. They did it with Jey Uso's the perfect comp, which is now, to be fair, I in no way am I comparing these two as wrestlers.
No.
But they got so sucked into the yeet that even whatever Jey Uso was good at as a wrestler, they took that from him. And
Right.
now he's just been a shell of him of what he used to be. Even as a tag wrestler, I'm like, are the Usos not good anymore as a tag team? Like, what happened? Because at least in a tag team scenario, they used to be really damn good. Now I'm like,
No, it's a great point. It's funny. And again,
He's like,
if you don't want to hear about men's wrestling, maybe skip the next minute and a half, but I don't think it'll bother you guys too much. Like, go back to 2019, 2020, pre-pandemic. There would be an open argument for who's the best tag team. Let's take away all time because that makes it too deep. There's so many great tag teams from before. Who's the best tag team of the last 15 years, right? The answer would have been Usos, Young Bucks, New Day,
FTR.
FTR. In 2019, I don't, their pre AEW run, I think people,
Oh,
as a
remember what they were in
connoisseurs,
NXT though?
I know, but the connoisseurs like them, but they hadn't done it on a big stage. So I would say it would be those three. You got the Hardy Boys later in their career, but
Yeah,
like
Bucks for sure.
the New Day, Usos, and the Bucks were doing great, great, great things in tag team wrestling, right? The Briscoes too, probably for people with an
Yeah.
expanded universe. But no one ever talked about the Usos being bad in the ring. I don't remember anyone ever going, yeah, the Usos, they have great matches, but Jay's a little sloppy. Like it was not a thing. But now I think there's a clip of Jey Uso doing something weird. We'll call it weird, botchy, whatever you want to call it, in the ring. Something not going well almost weekly when he wrestles. They have he's off his game for sure in the ring, and I think he's back in. I think they got the tag team back together, so hopefully he can get hopefully that
As a
synergy
as a professional wrestler, he peaked in the Roman Reigns feud.
the first, yeah,
The Hell in a Cell match with him and Roman,
was
that's the
good.
best Jey Uso has ever been as a wrestler. Like that. But again, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. A lot of people's best efforts come against Roman Reigns, which he doesn't, get the credit for.
He
But
doesn't.
um So yeah, like so back to this. So that was the one story that they told on Raw. The other story continues to be kind of the tag team titles being a major focus of both shows. So to intertwine it, I believe on this past Monday, what was the tag title um we got? Oh, I know what we got. We got Asuka. Oh, sorry, we got Rio, which is Rhea Ripley and Io, coming to the ring to cut a promo because they were awarded a tag title match against the Kabuki Warriors on the January 5th Netflix.
Hmm.
And as they were coming down to the ring, Asuka misted Rhea, and then Kyrie jumped Io, and Asuka and Kyrie beat the crap out of both of them. And so the closing montage was the Kabuki Warriors had Rhea laid out and they were going to set Rhea up for the insane elbow. And Io jumped on her and took the elbow to the back to kind of protect Rhea. And so the Kabuki Warriors laid them out and they got the jump on them. And they are, they are the champs and they're one step ahead. All this told me from what I saw on Monday night and from what we saw the spoilers is Io and Rhea are winning the tag belts January 5th.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
What do
We,
you think of that angle?
yeah, I'm incredibly frustrated from War Games to this. Um, because the Kabuki Warriors were basically just used as a device to get the belts to Rhea and Io. And I thought that Asuka's heel turn and the Stockholm Syndrome thing that they were doing with Kyrie had a lot more momentum than just kind of a little bridge transition here. So it's a little bit frustrating as someone who wants to see. It's weird that they get the belts and it feels like they're in a worse spot. You know what I mean? And it's just like it takes a specific kind of booking to like be hotter. WWE's 2025 can almost be summed up by the belt being an ice cube. You know what I mean? Like you get the belt and it's like things get worse. Um, it's happening a lot. It happens a lot. And it's not just about winning matches only, it's about presentation and there was some real writing going into what Kyrie and Oscar were doing, and then they get the belts, and they're just kind of like they're a pawn piece, is what I feel off of it at this point.
I thought that them getting the belts was a mistake. I thought Charlotte and Alexa were doing so much for the tag belts as a team. They were representing them everywhere. They were real champions, like they were giving new teams opportunities. Look, there used to be this internet trope of this used to be in the Sasha Banks days where when she would win a match or a title, they'd be like, she doesn't need it. Why does she need it, right? If there are two women in WWE that don't need tag belts, it's Io and Rhea Ripley, right? Like if there are legitimately two women who do not need tag titles, it's those two. Because all their tag, we know where this is going. Rhea and Io will have tag belts to set up their eventual match where Rhea finally beats her. That's all this is, right? And you could get there so many different ways, right? Like that's if that's the end game, which is Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky at WrestleMania, if that's their end game, I feel like using tag titles in the Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero sense isn't needed at this point.
Yeah.
But Rhea and Io have to have the tag belts now because they have been so intertwined as a team that it's almost like you're not giving the fans what they want because the fans clearly love these two as a team and they want these two to have the titles.
Yep.
But why couldn't you have done that with Charlotte and Alexa losing to them? Like you could have done it that way. I just think that again, you're right about the ice cube and the title because Stephanie was hot. She gets the title, she becomes colder. Io was the hottest thing they had in the company. They give her the title. She was cooled off. I could make the
Do you
case
know she didn't wrestle in June? And we're gonna get to it when we talk about wrestler of the year and all that.
she
But
didn't
like, she
wrestle in
didn't wrestle in June
June.
while she was the champion, not once.
No, she won. I think she had the singles match with Stephanie where it was broken up by Roxanne and Julia. And then I don't think she had another singles match until the Rhea match at Evolution. I think that's correct. I know she
Yeah.
had a tag match, she had two tag matches in between,
She
but
didn't even wrestle tag in June. You know what I mean? So
no, 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 no. And again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've tried to source this, but nobody would definitively tell me. But they believed she was working through a concussion
okay.
and that they didn't report it and they wanted to keep the title on her because I guess, again, I'm kind of reporting this, but nobody else has reported it. Is if, let's say, she wasn't cleared by Evolution, then they would have done some tournament to give the new champion at Evolution, but they knew that she could work Evolution, so they kind of were precautionary. So they had really big plans for Evolution. They needed a main event. Her and Rio were always going to be the main event, and they needed to make sure EO was there. I don't know if this is accurate, but that's what I was told by somebody that there was a concussion situation with Io and she was she couldn't, they protected her. Like they did not want her to work. But
And hey, if that's what they did, then that's good. You got to protect them.
they could have honestly, they would have been better served to tell us that because them not telling us that made us all as fans angry. Like, hey, why are you not wrestling her? Why are you not putting her out there? She was doing backstage segments every week, but if she had a concussion, you could almost add to the story. You could say, she's like, I want to wrestle, but the doctors won't clear me. You could almost, it's like what they did with Austin when he had the neck injury. You could make the crowd want her even more. So I think they incorrectly played that. But yeah, you are correct. So speaking of titles and cold, let's go to SmackDown here. I don't know what they're doing with Chelsea and the US title, and I don't know what they're doing with Jade and the world title. There seems to be no direction for either of those titles. And at this point, I just think SmackDown is too bottom. Like SmackDown doesn't have enough good women's wrestlers to me. Like I think
Matt,
Bayley and Lyra being moved to SmackDown would be the move, but um I guess from a storyline standpoint on SmackDown, Jade is teasing a Charlotte match, and I guess Chelsea and Julia are still feuding over the US title. I guess. What are your thoughts about SmackDown women?
I I think SmackDown's the worst written show in North American wrestling consistently this year. We've talked about it before. Um, they might make good booking decisions. I like that they've made Jade a heel champion. I think we like that. But I think that those are centralized decisions, right? Triple H decides who the next champion is. The writer of SmackDown does not decide to put the belt on somebody. That's a centralized decision. So when they get to TV on Fridays, I just think they don't do a good job writing that show. And yes, the rosters are imbalanced. They could use um, an influx of talent. Not to say the women that are over there aren't talented. I think it's actually even light in numbers. You know what I mean? They just don't have enough women. Um, they're a couple women short. I feel like there was a trade a while back that just never got finished out with another woman going the other way, is what it feels like. Because they're missing Bianca and they've just never plugged that in.
So Julia is very talented. I'm a huge Julia fan.
Right.
Chelsea's very talented. Jade is a presence, and as a heel, she's great. Like in that role, she fits it very well.
Michin.
Michin, like there's talent, but it goes back to this. I think you and I were having a conversation, yeah, it was yesterday, about there's a match that's going to happen on this coming SmackDown
Right.
between two really, really good women's wrestlers. Like they're elite performers as workers. And you were like, this is really sad. These are two demons and the crowd doesn't care. And I said, why should the crowd care? One person is booked like a joke, and the other person's character is a joke. So if you're not gonna like these are talented women, but if you're not gonna book them and put them in compelling positions, then why would I care?
That's what I'm saying. The writing is
Yeah.
terrible. It's
Yeah.
it's
Still,
not doing anything for
I don't
anyone.
even know if they're writing. I don't, I'm wondering if they're just turning the camera light on. Actually, no, they are writing it because if they actually turned the camera light on and said, Jade, go cut a promo you want to cut, it'd probably be way better. Or
Right.
if Julia got to have the match she wants to have, it would be way better. Yeah, here's the thing. We were first to market with this, so I'm going to pat us both on the back and give ourselves credit. We were the only show of record that I could think of that I listened to on the week it happened. That when SmackDown went to 2 hours, we said it was a bad idea. We were like, we understand that everybody hates the 3 hour wrestling show because they have that raw tunnel syndrome from when Vince was booking. But we were like, hey, the tag title scene is better with the 3 hour Raw. They had the
We have
Chelsea
mid-card titles are new this year,
they had Chelsea Meechin feud without a title. I think since SmackDown went to 2 hours, it has been the worst show in all of wrestling. Forget about North America, like the world. It's been
Yeah.
awful. I think they need the 3 hours because I think the writers are so used to having more time with the stuff that they had a better layout. And I think with the 2 hours, with the remember, everybody talks about 2 hours, but it's not 2 hours. It's actually um what is it? 44, 88 minutes of TV. So it's an hour and 28 minutes of actual television time because you have 32 minutes of commercials.
Right.
Well, if you give them another 44 minutes of actual TV time, I mean, now you're talking about over 2 hours of time, right? Because you're going to have, an almost an hour of commercials. So for me, I am excited for SmackDown to go back to 3 hours. And I do believe that you're going to see some women moved over, some women called up, and you're going to get better product. That's
Yeah,
just,
because you're missing Bianca. You're technically, I know the trade that they never got traded back for. Naomi won the title
Mhm.
cashing in, and she was the SmackDown talent, and they just never replaced her on the SmackDown side. And
Yep.
now you have Tiffany taking a refresh break, right, where they have her off TV to create demand. So they're like Bianca, Naomi, and Tiffany, and they haven't moved anyone over. Um, Nor are they doing good writing segments for the women that they do have on the show. So it's kind of a boneyard at this point.
Yeah.
Even though I think Jade's character as the champion is like that works, but they're not making it work.
It would be great if there was a babyface who we all thought had a chance of beating her.
Or that we cared if she destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, December is kind of a slow time. Let's, you know, who's a plucky baby face on the roster that people would be upset and get Jade more heat if she, destroyed?
Oh, I mean, people don't want to hear this, but would it hurt her? Would it hurt the product if she destroyed Alexa Bliss that allowed Charlotte to kind of come after Jade for the title for the Royal Rumble?
No. And I mean, Charlotte and Alexa, Lash and Nia are all SmackDown talents too. I know it gets confusing because they've been in the tag division and they kind of cross over, but they're so yeah, it could be Alexa. Who-
I I mean, who's the most over babyface on SmackDown?
It's Alexa.
So that would be the answer. Unless,
Well, and Charlotte is about it. Charlotte in this tag team, and I can give Alexa credit, but I think that it's a slingshot, and Charlotte can be the most over babyface if they tell this story right at some point. But because of that, you don't want Charlotte losing in that fashion.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
Alexa could.
I think it all depends on what story they want to tell. But I got to tell you, like, I like Meechin as a performer. I like BFAB, but nobody thinks they have a chance at beating Jade. And that's the problem, right? Like they've been booked like such afterthoughts that now I'm supposed to take them seriously. They don't can't even win a match. And with the Chelsea thing, I understand getting her the double belt for the AAA heat, but that was a bad decision. And honestly, like they need to repackage Julia seriously. Like to me, the story, the simple way to get Julia hot and it's easy to do, January 5th, Netflix show, Julia helps Asuka and Kyrie retain the tag titles and joins them. Boom, you're off to the races just like that.
Yeah.
Because now Julia is part of a group that has credibility. Because if Asuka and Kyrie beat Rhea and Io, they have credibility. And to me, it's you could even tell the story of Asuka now having the new Io in Julia to mentor, right? You can do stuff there. So I don't think they're gonna do that. They're not that creative, but that's what I would do. So is there anything else we need to cover? Oh, we I have one more thing I want to talk about. We want to talk about the NXT thing, and then I have one more thing before we get to our awards.
Yeah, I think so I was visiting family this last week and Tuesday night we went to downtown Disney, not Disneyland, but if you've never been, there's a shopping district with restaurants and stuff near Disneyland, and so it's a fun place to go. You could buy stuff. They've got some cool restaurants and bars and stuff. So me and my wife, being from the area, we used to go on dates there and stuff, and so we went and we're walking around and um my phone just starts blowing up. And in a way that happens sometimes when, WWE or AEW is running like a main show, but not in a way that I expected in this particular night. And oh my God, Blake Monroe lost the title. No way they did. What happened? And then and I bring up being at downtown Disney because I'm trying to be, we're with family, not just with my wife, but with her family. And I'm sitting there and trying to look at my phone and catch up on what the hell happened. And first, I get to watch the video without sound. And it's just, I think cluster is the right way to describe everything that went down on Tuesday. Um, for those, you know, to just fully put the narrative out there, Thea Hale beat Blake Monroe. It was an unplanned win. Um, the referee followed through on what he believed his instructions were, and that was to count the shoulders, right? Referees in WWE are told to count the shoulders. If the shoulders are down, count three. Different in New Japan, right? Stardom, the referee will not count three if it's not supposed to be where the match ends, which I think we talked about a couple matches this year where some shoulders were late getting up, but the referee actually saved the match by not counting three. But in NXT, WWE, they count the shoulders. Blake got the wind knocked out of her on a senton, didn't get her shoulders up. Thea Hale, your new champion. Um, Sometimes it's fun when things don't go according to plan. I think this has been a little bit funny. It forces them to actually write and think hard about making a story out of it. I find that WWE actually does a good job when stuff doesn't go according to plan because it actually forces them out of their malaise. So
The
I'm excited to
famous
see what will come.
the famous travel show issue
Yeah,
where they only had the NXT talent and a little bit of the SmackDown talent, and then you got you got the weird dream matches where you got like Daniel Bryan, Adam Cole,
right.
you got all that stuff. They do sometimes, they are um organized chaos. I will say that. Yeah, when I saw this, I literally was like, somebody screwed up here. Because I'm like, there's no way with all what they've invested in Blake Monroe that they're like, oh yeah, she's gonna lose on a random Tuesday show to Thea Hale.
Right.
Like, there's just no way. And then I watched it and I'm like, oh, and I didn't know. I'm like, did Thea purposely hold her down? Because it looked like Thea kind of knew she couldn't kick out and held her there, but I think it's just the ref did what he was instructed to do because in WWE it's go through the count. And yeah, to your
And
point, Blake lost her wind, right? Like she just couldn't, she didn't have the energy.
and the best part about this, um, this is very much. way more entertaining inside baseball. And everyone who listens to this podcast is inside baseball, or else you wouldn't be listening. But for a regular fan that watches NXT, this is probably confusing and not that fun. But if you're on X and you're tuned into women's wrestling, it's hilarious because Blake fans absolutely think Thea held her down, right? It's
Mhm.
Thea's fault. She landed on her too hard, knocked her wind out of her, and then she should know that it's not a pin, and she should probably have like let her hit hips up and made it easier for Blake. That's the way they see it. On the
Mhm.
other side, your long-term NXT fans and your Thea Hale fans, she can go. She's a fantastic wrestler. She's probably one of the best match wrestlers that they have
But,
down there.
yeah.
Has great matches with Lyra and Roxanne,
Roxanne.
right? So you've got a whole side of NXT fandom that's happy as hell that this happened, right?
She,
The
she's
ones that
tough.
don't want these signings coming in and taking everything. They want the people who grew up in NXT to take it. They're happy as hell. So it's funny.
I agree with you that sometimes the best things come out of these like again, the the greatest draw in a short window in the history of professional wrestling is Austin 316. That came out of an accident,
Yep.
right? Triple H got suspended or he got buried because of the curtain call. Jake Roberts cuts the promo about the Bible because he was a born again Christian. Austin was in the hospital getting stitches on his lip, so he didn't see what Jake said. So Michael Hayes is going to interview him. He's like, "Hey, what did Jake say?" He just said, he said he was quoting the Bible about it." And Steve said, for whatever reason, during football games, they always show John 3:16 signs when the kick's happening. And I just said, Austin 3:16. And it just hit. So that's an accident, right? Like
Right.
Steve Austin was never supposed to be that. So now, to be fair here, they've already announced there's a rematch on New Year's Evil. So we know Blake Monroe is going to win the title back because there's
Right.
no way that she was ever supposed to lose the belt because they've invested so much in her. But I agree with you on this. Thea Hale is actually super underrated and she's a hell of a performer. Like that match with Roxanne was great last year.
Yeah.
Like that match was fantastic. So I'm not angry if they decided to just say, you know what, Blake, maybe we need to repackage you or repurpose you. And maybe, Blake, it's time. Why can't Blake Monroe just come to SmackDown?
I was just gonna say put
Like,
her on
like just put
SmackDown.
her on SmackDown. Like, let her go to SmackDown. And, she'd immediately, to me, be a babyface, but she sucks as a babyface, so she should be a heel. But like, I feel like Blake Monroe is too big for NXT, and I feel like she should be on a bigger stage. So if the belt was to stay with Thea, I'd be okay with that too. Um, it was one of the more entertaining episodes of NXT that I've seen in a while because NXT's been in a little bit of a malaise since they lost Stephanie. And they haven't really recovered from Stephanie and the Julia package leaving. So
Yeah.
before we get to our top five, which we want to make sure we give the listeners our time on, I want to make one announcement, and it's a big deal, especially for somebody like me who has a history with this stuff. So, for the first time ever in the history of Tokyo sports, every year they give an MVP to their athlete of the year in Tokyo. And they consider in Japan professional wrestling a sport. They do not consider it sports entertainment.
Yep.
They know it's scripted and they know that there's a winner and out and a loser determined before the match, but they treat it as a sport. For the first time ever in the history of this award, even Manami Toyota did not win this award. The Tokyo Sports MVP went to Saya.
Huge deal.
I just want to say that that's a monster deal and that Saya has done not since Manami Toyota has done more for the Joshi wrestling brand. Now, People are going to hear this and they're going to be like, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa. Kyrie, Io, Kana, they all had a hand in it. But Saya has taken it to a next level of exposure, not since the mid 90s All Japan. And we should not discredit the contributions. Ever since she went to being a heel and, as they say, the hate of Saya, the dark side, been one of the better, most compelling characters in all of wrestling. And so she's Money in the Bank and she's the Tokyo Sports MVP. And again, not that I care for Dave's ratings, but she's the only women's wrestler ever, other than Manami Toyota, to have three straight five-star matches that he graded.
Yep.
So,
It's been a
yeah,
spectacular year for her, and I'm props to um Tokyo Sports for not hedging any sort of impact there. The ratings, their money side shows that she's been the MVP, and I love that they finally put it in writing like that for the women.
and somebody in the comments when this was announced said, "Why not Otani?" Okay. Otani plays in the United States. So this is for Japan, for
Yep.
Tokyo.
Yep.
And so, yes, obviously Otani is a much bigger level of superstar. Nobody's going to deny that. She wouldn't. But in Tokyo, she had the biggest impact this year. So, kudos to her, deservedly so. And, there might be some other awards coming from her. Who knows?
Yep.
But that's I wanted to make sure we covered that because I think it's an important thing. And again, as somebody who's been watching Joshi wrestling a long time, um, it's cool that somebody has done something that even Minami Toyota never did. You know, will an all women's wrestling show ever again sell at the Tokyo Dome like Minami used to do? I don't know, but I can tell you this: they had to put Saya on the Tokyo Dome show in January because she is a big draw. So that's good. All right. So, sir, we are here with our top five lists.
Yep.
And I think one of them is going to be the one we spend a lot of time on. And I'm going to need time for our wrestler one to kind of go through my thought process. But we're going to start at top five moments, segments. So
Yep.
you can intertwine the two words, but our definition is a segment on television that the women had, and it was captivating to us. It was inspiring. It was hilarious. It was drama filled. So that's kind of the basis of this list. So would you like to do yours and I do mine, or would you like to go back and forth?
I was thinking, well, I'll do my full segment list first,
Okay.
then you could go, and then we'll do for the listeners, we'll do our matches.
Hmm.
You go, then I go, and then for wrestler, I think we should go back and forth through the
Okay.
list. Five,
All
five.
right.
All right. So I will start. Segment of the year. I purposefully did not research this, and hear me out. I did this first. I researched the other two awards to make sure I didn't miss anything. But in and of itself, for it to be a segment of the year, I wanted it to be seared in my brain that it happened. I wanted to remember, around what time of the year it happened, what feud it happened during, um, what its important was, what its entertainment value was, why it was special, why it was impactful. And I felt like researching it, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that was cool. That kind of ruins my top five because this is what stuck in my brain and this is my top five. So I may have missed something. I don't even know because I didn't look. You may say something that I'm like, oh, yeah, that was really cool. But these five really stood out to me. So at number five, I have the Tony Storm Mariah May segment on Collision, where Tony stopped the act and played her cards to Mariah that she was still timeless Tony Storm. And it's seared in my brain where she like slowly picks up the mic and she goes, "Did you think that I would forget?" Like that was a really, really, really great moment. And was for me, actually, the most excited I've been about Tony Storm and Timeless Tony as a character was probably in that moment. That was probably the time that I felt the most like, damn, this is cool, like where I bought into what she was doing. Because I thought that that turn, we all knew it was coming, but it was done really, really well.
You're talking about the segment in Jacksonville where she was wrestling as Rocker Tony Storm,
Yeah,
and then okay, all right, got it.
yeah. Um, I think Mariah attacked her and left
Mhm.
the ring, and Mariah
Yep.
was leaving, and Tony kind of like picks herself up and, "Did you think I would forget?" And Mariah did an amazing job. She looks and she's like, "Oh shit, that's timeless." Great segment. Number four also involved Tony Storm, and I am happy to say that I was there with you in person. Um, Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm, promo, El Paso, Texas, to kick off their feud for All In. I think it was 6, 7, 8 weeks in front of All In. Um, I actually, of everything on this list, this is the most understated one. And maybe it sticks with me because we were there. But I went back and I did watch it. And I just really, really, really always will appreciate the story they told with this promo. I loved the homage to how they got to this spot, how they both had similar paths. I loved the homage to um, the ideals of women's wrestling and what this match represented and what they were trying to accomplish at All In. Probably would have been number one on the list if they would have went on to main event All In. Not their fault that they didn't, but really, really probably my favorite. It's not even a promo battle, right? They didn't really dig at each other. They mostly announced their respect for each other. And I really enjoyed it. So that was my top AEW moment of the year or segment because the next three were all WWE. Number three um, was Naomi officially announcing her pregnancy. Um, I loved this promo. Um, I thought she did an incredible job of, it's such a joyous moment for her. And she did such a good job of like snapping back into character and calling everyone in the crowd a bunch of like busters or whatever. Like, don't cheer for me. You guys stabbed me in the back, kind of that whole thing. Um, I think it would have been a great segment anyway, but the fact that she kind of promoted in character is going to make it last forever longer. Um, but we love these women. We support them. We're happy for them. We want success for them in the ring and also outside of the ring. I look back on Becky announcing her pregnancy with Asuka as one of my favorite moments ever too. So there wasn't a crowd there to play off of for that one. So I was really happy that Naomi got to do this. I went back and forth with my number one and my number two because one of them was significantly the most entertaining segment of the year. And the
Hmm.
other one was maybe the most impactful, important moment. Um, and my most or the biggest moment, uh, and I made the call to make the biggest outside of wrestling moment my number two because I think the other one deserves number one. So my number two is AJ Lee returning to WWE. Um, that broke every wall, right? I think it was very well done. Uh, it made its way far, far outside of the reach of the regular wrestling community. It's a big deal that she's back. Um, minus 1 point for men being involved. This is a women's wrestling podcast, but her husband is in WWE, so it makes sense with Becky and all that. But no, it was a great moment. One of my favorite pops. seeing people who grew up watching her, crying in the stands, posting their videos of them reacting. Um, that was a great, great moment. And my number one, because it was the best women's segment of the year, hands down, that didn't involve wrestling, was Bianca Belair and Naomi, and uh, Naomi confessing to attacking Jade and throwing her on the hood of a car. I did it will resonate with me forever. Like I can just hear it in my head, and then her trying to justify it, and the emotion, both women crying, both women nailed that moment. It felt like real friends fighting about something that they really didn't know happened. Um, and then Naomi, the cherry on top being the way that she just goes from trying to justify it to anger and becoming that dangerous person, proceed with caution person. As Bianca's leaving the ring, starts to hurl insults at her. Yeah, that was the best. That was the best segment of the year for the women, for sure, for me.
So I want our listeners to know that we don't talk about these things prior to doing it,
Not one conversation.
but we're gonna seem like we did on this one because we both have top three moments that are WWE, although as you'll find out, my third one is different than your third one. So I want to talk about two things you pointed out that aren't on my list, but not on my list for specific reason. Number one, I love that was your Tony Mariah pick. The reason I didn't put any Tony Mariah segment in my top five is I can't tell any of them apart from each other. It's
Yeah,
all one. Like if we had a category for top feud of the year, they would be number one
right,
because they had the best story, they had the best ending. I would give them the number one spot. Because you know what segment really was amazing that they did? The sit down interview with Renee.
right. Which is being beat into the ground now about the mediocrity thing,
Right.
right?
So to me, that segment was amazing. The segment when Rocker Tony Storm came back and Mariah May was like worried and then realized she doesn't like she's pretending not to remember who she is. Like the whole thing that Tony did where she's like, I'm new here, I'm Tony Storm. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I used to watch this on TV like that. I can't tell any of it apart. So I couldn't pick one specific thing and say, okay, this is it. I could have made a top five list, honestly, of just Naomi this year.
Oh
And
yeah.
Naomi will get her flowers from me later. But like I actually think that the pregnancy promo was the best promo cut by a woman this year. I thought the my favorite Naomi segment, other than the one that's going to be on my list, was when she went to Bianca's house and was going through her picture book and basically told Bianca, "Do you want to end up in your wheelchair like your mom?" Like that segment in Knoxville was amazing.
Right.
Like I was she's like Bianca goes, "You did what? You went where?" Yeah, I went to your house, the fridge didn't have too much juice in it. Like Naomi could have had her own list here because
Yeah.
I think for the time she gave us until she announced her pregnancy, she was she was the most compelling women's wrestler on TV this whole year.
Yeah.
And I will talk about her later. But okay, so those are my honorable mentions, quote unquote. So let me get with my top five. I am floored you did not have this segment in your list, but I did. Number five, I call it Mercedes Messy. The segment where they have the celebration cake for Mercedes and the puppet comes out and the puppet goes, "Say hello to your CEO." And she's kind of mocking Mercedes. And Mercedes comes out, "Belt boys, get to the back. Renee, get the hell out of my ring." And she went and she's talking to a puppet. And I could make a strong case this was the best work of her entire AEW run in terms of in a segment. and she's talking to the puppet, and she's literally having a conversation with herself because it's a puppet. Who do you think you're talking? And then she's like, and then she takes the puppet and pushes it in the cake for it all to be set up when Chris shows up, just to beat her and to power bomb her into the cake. I thought that was one of the best segments of AEW ever. And it might be my favorite Mercedes segment, maybe other than the one that I'm going to talk about, which is number four, which is the same number four you had, which was Mercedes and Tony Storm in El Paso, where I thought legitimately these two, we were in the building, they were the two most over acts on that whole show.
They were.
If you looked at the signs in the crowd, we were sitting beside somebody who had a sweating sign with Tony or a sweating sign with Mercedes, which button to press. The whole crowd, we talked to people in that audience. They were fans of this whole thing. And legitimately, we thought this could main event. Like the
Yeah,
way they set that whole thing, because it main evented that night.
it did.
And we were like, oh my God, they're gonna main event these two. And here's what I loved about that promo. Two women who bet on themselves, who left the easiest, biggest game in the world in two different fashions. But the reason I thought it was great and it was symbolic and I got invested in it is, many people forget that the last match Tony Storm ever had in WWE was against Mercedes on a house show.
Yep.
And apparently Mercedes told her, if you're not happy, leave. And now look at both of them thriving away from WWE. I thought that segment was great. I thought it set them up to main event. They did not main event, and I honestly thought that them not main eventing, um, you know, main eventing, um, is going to be a possibility, but they didn't.
Yeah. Um, I just wanted them to have a chance to main event, and I think it was cooled down a couple times, unfortunately. So, but
So
great segment.
great segment. So number three, uh, is a segment that you can make a case that it was really, really good. You can make a case it doesn't belong on the list. For me personally, it is my number three. It's Io, Bianca, Rhea at the Garden. They were setting up the three-way match at WrestleMania, and Bianca and Rhea are going back and forth at each other, and Io's kind of like, "Hey, what about me? I'm the champ. I'm the champ." And they kept disrespecting her. Rhea pie faced her. Io comes back. Bianca pie faced her. Io comes back, slaps the piss out of Rhea, then
Yeah.
turns Bianca around. Bianca's like, "What do you mean?" And then whacked her. And the crowd in the garden was going bonkers. And Io looked like the most over, well, she was that night, other than Roman Reigns. She was the most over person in the building, in the garden. Rhea and Bianca are the two women that the company has pretty much put as the faces of the company. And they are like going crazy for Io, and they're like Io. And I truly believe that night at the Garden is the decision was made that night to make Io win the WrestleMania match. I think at that night at the Garden, the decision was made. So that to me is my third favorite segment of the year. And look, I have the same exact top two you had. And for me, it wasn't as hard to put two and put to number one, which it was. Because yes, the AJ Lee return is my number two segment, and you could make a strong case it could be number one. And I thought that the men being involved in this actually added to the segment.
It
I,
did. I was just
I
joking.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think for this one specific instance, the way Seth Rollins, set up his wife to come out, greatest ever, blah blah blah. Punk came out, Punk got punked out again by Becky, and Punk set it up so well. You don't think I can make a call to Bailey or the Eradicator? And Becky's like, I beat her, I beat her, I beat her up. And it's setting you up, and you're thinking, oh, maybe we're not going to get AJ. maybe we're not going to, because remember, she slapped him 3 times. He walks out of the ring. Then he goes, I don't hit women, but I do know somebody who will. And then the music hit, and that is one of the loudest pops I've ever heard,
Yep.
sustained. And I mean, like you said, people were crying, people were happy, their favorite wrestler came back. I know people personally in my life who they stopped watching, but AJ's back there watching. I give AJ all the credit for that. I give all 4 performers. They did, and you know what was great about that segment? When Seth was like afraid to climb the barricade because he saw eight, and then he climbed, but he tripped over. Like they were like bumbling fools at the end because they were made to look bad. Phenomenal segment. But number one is
Yep.
the exact same number one you had. I don't think there's a better segment the WWE has produced in a long time. And honestly, Bianca and Naomi, they're not going to ever win an Emmy WWE because it's not seen as, performative art the way it should be. But these two women were magnificent. I mean, they set the whole thing up. Bianca's like, you better tell me or else you'll never see me again. And then Naomi's like, I did it. And then the best part is when Bianca's walking away, she goes, I should have pushed her harder. I,
Yeah.
Naomi, when Naomi goes, you ungrateful bitch. It was, like I said, Naomi could have her own top five. Bianca was equally masterful in this segment. This is one of the greatest segments they've ever produced, and it is my number one, and I think it's deservedly so.
100%.
Okay.
We did not talk about that ahead of time. Some good crossover. It's funny is the way you felt about Tony Storm and Mariah is kind of where I got stuck on Minnie Monet, Harley, and Mercedes is I couldn't pick one, so I didn't. You know what I mean? I kind of thought, oh, was it the debut? I remember the debut of Minnie Monet getting like a gigantic reaction as well, too. So, all right,
Yep.
matches. I'm gonna let you go first, sir.
Okay. So I am going to say this, and I am accepting of it. Everybody knows what my ad is on X, which is at King Ajar, and this is for the crew. Please send all of your vitriol towards me, because Mercedes Moné did not have a top five match for me in 2025. So I'm just going to put that right out there. So if you're anticipating her name's going to be called, it is not. She has one match for me that's an honorable mention, which is her versus Jamie Hayter, which was my favorite Mercedes Moné match of 2025. And I will get to how I feel about her matches and on when we do the next list. But I had 3 honorable mentions for my matches of the year that didn't make the list. Saya versus Tam won, which was not Saya versus Tam career versus career match, but it was the first match that they had. And I can't remember the name of the pay-per-view, but that match was almost as good as the career versus career match. But I didn't want to put the same two people in the same type of match twice. Another match for me is Saya versus Azumi. I love this match. This was a phenomenal piece of business, and for me, I'm gonna have a lot of Saya on this list. So that was the other honorable mention, and my number three was Io versus Stephanie Vaquer at WrestlePalooza. I think that was the only redeeming match of the pay-per-view, and that I felt like that was the only time on the main roster we got to see what Stephanie Vaquer is capable of.
You thought Io Stephanie Vaquer was better than every Mercedes match except for Jamie Mercedes?
Well, I said in terms of my honorable mentions, yes. My honorable mentions. Like none of these made my list. So
I
I
know, but I'm just
did
saying if it's
all
an
the honorable.
honorable mention and the others aren't, that is your stance.
Well, I had like I when I was trying to do this list, and I don't know how you were doing, like I'm sure you had the similar process. I started with 20 matches and then I kind of kept cutting it down. And so like Mercedes has a lot of matches on my top 20 list. So like I liked her Jamie match the most, but if you tell me her match with Tony was better than Jamie, I'm not going to argue with you. And if you tell
Right.
me her match with Chris was better, so she had a lot of really good matches. Like she had a more of a complete body of work, but she didn't have like the standout match. And I don't know if that's more of a credit to her because she's that good that everything is looking good? Or is it, the story part of that match? But my favorite Mercedes match was the Jamie match.
Yeah.
And that was actually my number six match of the year. Like if I were to do ranking, Stephanie Io was eight of the eight. Like it was the last honorable mention, but I love that
I had it
match.
19th
Stephanie Io.
easily. I almost didn't make the 20 for me, but that's
So let me go through my five so then you can get through. So my number five, this is a controversial pick, but it really shouldn't be. My dream match, a match I've wanted to see for a long time, Io versus Mayu Iwatani. That was my number five match. This match gets better with each rewatch. It's a match that it's technically perfect, meaning everything was crisp, everything was clean. They got time. They really laid into each other. Like they were, it was like, how do I put it? They were stiff, and I love this match. Now, a lot of people are going to say there's no story, there's no heat, and I'm fine with that. Like again, these are the five wrestling matches of women that I watched the most in 2025. So that's number five. Number four is Saya versus Suzuki. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this match, and I have no idea why. But this match to me was every bit as compelling as the Saya Tam match that I have a little bit above it. But the only reason I think that match was better is it had real stakes, which is career versus career, loser leaves stardom. So that was my number four match. My number three match is Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley Evolution. And I went back and I watched this match, and it's not the match, but the pay-per-view is above my head. And honestly, they really, really, really worked their tail off in this match. And the thing I loved about this match is it really felt like two A sides fighting each other. Like I never got the sense that one was better than the other, and I really didn't know who was going to win this match. At multiple times of the match, I'm like, how are they going to end this match? How's Rhea going to win? How's Io going to win? And we all saw how the ending happened. And a lot of people could say, well, the ending ruined it. But I would make the case it was one of the best cash-ins of all time. And that it took, it gave Naomi a moment that we'll never forget for her because she did it in the biggest possible stage for the women's division, which is their own pay-per-view and in the main event. So that's my number three match. My number two match, and this could have been my number one match, but it wouldn't be, is Saya versus Tam Part 2, career versus career match. Loser leaves stardom is what the stipulation is, but I call it career for career. Um, I don't know if there's a more compelling wrestling character than Saya. Now, I know it's tough because Stardom doesn't do weekly shows. They don't have promos, they don't have segments. But my goodness, when this woman is on my screen, I'm glued into her. She is amazing. She is like the Joker. And now I have a new dream match, which is I want to see her fight Io badly. Like I really want to see Saya fight Io. Speaking of Io, my number one match of the year is not just me saying it, but it's Sports Illustrated said it as well, which is the WrestleMania triple threat, which is the Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley match. And for me, I am willing to say this now. I think this is the best women's match ever. I'm willing to say it. And the reason I'm willing to say it is there is not a single miss in this match at all. And it's an athletic marvel. Like the stuff they were doing and the way they did it so easily and seamlessly was incredible. They did it in front of the biggest audience they're possibly going to get, which is the largest WrestleMania audience of all time. Now, I know next year will beat that because every year these numbers go up and they get inflated. But what I'm saying is that I just think this was the match of the year. It was the match of the year the night I saw it. It's been the match of the year ever since. and nothing has really topped it for me in 2025. And so those are my five.
All right. Um, I'll give a few honorable mentions. I also had Saya and Hazuki as an honorable mention. I was actually I'd only watched that match once. I went back and rewatched it. That's one of my favorite things about this process is a match that I forgot was as good as it was. Um, you didn't mention it. This is the one match we talked about before giving our lists to be honest with the listeners, because we both had a feeling that we were going to skip over it because of our personal tastes. I just can't rank Tony and Mariah in my top five. It's just not the type of match I like. It's just not the type of match that I would rewatch. I did rewatch it for this. I liked it less than I did the night it happened. And I liked it less than I did the week after because we both watched it twice to make sure that we reviewed it properly when it happened because it was a five-star match, the first one in North America. So I think it's a lot like Charlotte and Becky, whereas I think as the years go on, it's going to have a better nostalgia hit than the actual match was. But I'm going to mention it honorably because it's the second highest graded cage match. It's the highest graded cage match in North America for the women this year. It's graded higher than the match you had at your number one. I disagree with that entirely, but it is the only matches that are ahead of it in total grade are the two or three Saya matches as far as
Mm.
cage match is concerned. But um, the general public loved this match. I was comfortable not putting it in my top five because I don't have any plunder matches really in my top five. So, but respect to them for going out and doing what they did. Um, so I felt like that was deserving of a mention. Um, Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné, honorable mention. It is Mercedes' highest graded match from the Wrestling Observer this year. I felt very comfortable that the matches for Mercedes that I have ahead of it are ahead of it. Um, I think that they're better performances.
It's actually the highest graded Mercedes match ever in the Observer, and it's tied with the Hazuki match.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not. I don't have it as a top 10 match for her. Maybe it's not even top 15. It's a great match. And on the card, it lived up to the card. So I see why when we all watched it in the moment, everyone was like, yeah, because that was a hard card to stand out on, and they did. But
Mhm.
I like a couple of things that she did better this year. One of them is going to be very controversial. So you still have six women for your top five, or right?
I do, yes, I do.
We both
I'm,
gave each other one mulligan, and I'm
yeah,
taking
I'm
my
I'm
mulligan.
looking at my list right now, and I'm like, I have two women in the number five spot. So yes, I guess
So
I do.
I'm taking my mulligan in match of the year and naming a tie for top five, and tie for fifth. My tie for fifth is actually both Mercedes matches, and one of them had a visceral crowd reaction that I think is on par with any crowd reaction she's ever gotten. And the other one actually would be a top three match if the crowd, and I'm going to blame Tony Khan, if the crowd, if this was put in a spot to succeed, the same crowd, if it opened the show, I think this is a top three match this year. So tied for fifth, I have Mercedes versus Persephone, CMLL main event. Um, It is literally a match that meets the core of what wrestling's trying to accomplish. And I think it's going to be paid off with Persephone beating her sometime in the next couple months in front of us. Hopefully, a CML. Is there a joint AEW CMLL show coming up in Mexico?
I believe there is. Let me ask you a question. If Persephone won the match, would this match have been higher on your list?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my thought about this match too, which is I think I had it ninth, and I feel like if Persephone won, it might have been five.
Yeah, because there would have been just a ungluing of the roof with such a
Yes.
huge crowd would have been great. And then I'm bullish on this, and this is where, People are going to call me a Mercedes mark, whatever. I don't care. The Chris match, number three, it's exquisite. It's it but it required a crowd that pays attention and that follows the weeklies and that knows the stories, and that crowd was either exhausted or just not paying attention
So is that
because
your number five match? Like it's
that's
tied.
tied with fifth
Okay.
for Persephone. Yeah, with Persephone.
Uh,
Chris three. Um, I think it was the best match she wrestled this year, but I can't let it sit there. The crowd does matter. Okay. So that's what knocked it down. But I think with if it had opened that same card, I think it would have ended up third on this list. I don't think it, I'm not saying it for sure would have passed the top two because the top two matches are incredible matches, but I'm really, really still frustrated. I watched this match twice for this list. I watched it again with sound. I watched it without sound. Without sound, it is one of the best wrestled women's matches of all time. And where I would say it would keep up with, your number one match, um, which I'm not arguing with, and everyone will see that soon. Um, the story, the counters from match one and from match two, and the callbacks and just everything that went into this match is like it's like a production's dream, right? They produced a beautiful match. It just didn't get the credit for
it,
how wonderfully it was
so
produced.
two different style matches, right? Mercedes Chris is a classic wrestling match, right? It was a classic counter hold wrestling match.
Yeah,
The triple threat is a modern day wrestling match, right? Which
yeah.
is again, I've said this on this podcast multiple times. I truly believe that if they did the triple threat 100 times, they would only get it that good once.
Right.
Because there's so much that could go wrong with that kind of a match, right? Like you're literally risking one thing after another, one mess up, one slip could lead. Like if let's just say Io slips off the ropes once in that whole match, it throws everything else off, right?
Yeah.
So they got everything right the one time they got to do it. So it's just one of those lightning in a bottle moments. But I see what you're
I
saying.
I
Chris,
feel exactly the same about Mercedes Chris. They got everything right and the crowd didn't give them credit for it. That's my frustration. Is actually I think was it as high flying as the other match? No, but it had probably better story beats, historical story beats, say, and they nailed all of them. And it just, it's very frustrating. But I
well,
want,
but so let me before you get to your sorry, I don't want to take
yeah,
time from you. Is that your favorite Mercedes Chris match? Because I think it's the third of three. And that's what I said 2 weeks ago, that it's Return of the Jedi to, Empire Strikes Back, which I would.
no, I think I had Mercedes Chris at my second on the list last year, or second or third on the list. I think I
No,
have
no, but
one of
that's what
them
I'm saying.
slightly ahead.
Is this your favorite Mercedes Chris match? No.
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it's because
The
Full
crowd.
Gear last year is so good
Yeah,
also. Yeah.
that match is amazing.
Um, number four, I have Rhea versus Io slash Naomi at Evolution. I actually look at this match in three different buckets. Um, if it was just Rhea and Io, it wouldn't have ranked as highly on the list. Um, it would have, but it wouldn't have. I got out of the match for a minute, which I said the day it happened when they did the outside the ring stuff, which just was just way too long for me. Um, However, adding Naomi, it was like the match was like one of the best wrestled matches I had ever seen, and it was like trending towards matching up with the WrestleMania match. Then they did the outside the ring stuff for too long, and it like brought it back down. And then Naomi was like the nitro boost that like brought it back up, if that makes sense, right? So the in-ring work was really, really good and worthy of top three, four, five. Came down slightly. And if it had just finished after they did the outer ring stuff, it would have ranked lower. But then Naomi coming out kind of boosted back up.
Okay.
Um, Great crowd. best crowd of the year, great moment. Um, Exquisite work from Rhea and Io, and then Naomi, the story kind of coming through there, what was fantastic. So that was my number four. My number three is Mercedes versus Jamie at Double or Nothing. Um, I've watched this match more than any other match I've watched this year. I watched it at your house.
We
We
did, yeah.
watched it
Yeah, yeah.
together.
I was getting ready. Yeah, yeah. I
Because
was
it
getting
had happened. It had
ready.
happened the couple days before. But I love this match. It's hard hitting. The crowd's into it. Um, Super high stakes with the Owen Hart tournament. And I just really, really, really love the execution of this match. I love their chemistry together. I think it had the best near falls of any Mercedes match this year,
Hmm.
except maybe the Tony one. But um, I really, really enjoyed this match. I didn't even put in my honorable mention, but I know some people are going to be like, man, they didn't have Mercedes and Athena on any of their lists. Mercedes versus Athena, and we'll talk about next week TV matches and things like that. But I just think that what went into these pay-per-view matches and main event matches, I have to give extra credit for. That's the way I just look at wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, I loved Mercedes Athena. It's the highest graded Mercedes match this year, and I think it's Athena's highest graded match ever on Cage Match. So I'm not
Higher rated than Mercedes Tony Storm in cage match?
It is. It's
Wow.
it's
Okay.
it's one of Mercedes' highest graded matches ever. So fans love that match. I just have to give a leg up to matches in a bigger spot. Take nothing away from that match. Number two is the highest graded cage match on the year by a lot. Is Tam Nakano versus Saya, career versus career. It's the highest graded women's match.
Mhm.
I think it's like second or third ever. So fans love this match. Um, I love the passion behind it. It is the storytelling is brilliant. It's very emotional. It's the best emotional match of the year by far. Um, I think the triple threat match, which I'll talk about in a second, has an emotional moment at the end. Io Sky winning and having that emotional moment in the ring. This is like, was it 36? Was it 30? It's 36 minutes.
36 minutes,
Yeah,
22 seconds. Mhm.
36 minutes. And you feel emotion throughout most of the match. So that's my number two. My number one is your number one. It's an athletic marvel. It is a pantheon match. I have it personally as the second or third best women's match ever, but that's not a diss whatsoever. Um, that's actually a compliment. We're probably not going to see the second or third best women's match ever next year. You know what I mean? We're lucky to have gotten this match. It's a once in a lifetime type match. Um, and I don't think you could switch out any of the performers and have the same match. It was specifically perfect for these three. um, if you switch out any one of these performers, you would have had to have had a different match. Not to say it couldn't have been better. It's something that exists that we don't know, or that doesn't exist and we don't know. But for these three, you could have them do it 100 times. It will never be this good. It was all three of them threw a 103.8 mile an hour fastball on the same night. It's crazy and it's very, very good. If it didn't open the show, it wouldn't quite have been as good, not because of them, but because this frenzied WrestleMania opening crowd, it probably wouldn't have even got as good of a reaction if it did main event. So the stars aligned for this magical match that we got. Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. My number one match of the year.
Yeah, it's the only time ever that I listened to when it comes to women's wrestling, when I listened to Uncle Dave talk about a match, I said, "Oh, he's giving it five," and it did. What I mean is, like, everybody knows he has a Joshi bias, so it's like if he talks about a Joshi match, it's like, "Oh yeah, that'll get five," because it's a Joshi match, right? Like he'll give it five. But this is the only other than Brook, because the way he talked about Brooklyn, I thought, oh, Brooklyn was going to get five, but then it got 4.5, and I was like, what? But this was the only time I was like, they're getting five.
Yeah.
Because like on the show, Brian's like, that was a great match. He said, no, he goes, I think that was the best women's match ever at WrestleMania.
Yep.
He goes, that was the best. And then I'm like, whoa, okay. Because he said Charlotte Rhea was the best and he gave it 4.75. And he said Bianca Becky was number two, and he gave that 4.5. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe he is gonna give it a, and then I was like, yeah, the way he talked about it, because he kept saying it's perfect. It's like a perfect match. And I was like, oh, wow, this could get five. And you can make a case it should have got higher because he gave Tam versus Saya to 5.25. So, you could make a case, well, why didn't this get 5.25? But, they're Americans, so it's not going to get, he's not going to give them the extra half a star or a quarter star. But yeah, from a rewatchability standpoint, other than Brooklyn, I don't know if there's a women's match that I've ever watched as much as this one, other than maybe Bull Nakano, Manami Toyota. Those would probably be the three.
We always advocate for longer matches, but there's something great about a 14 to 18 minute, Brooklyn's 16
15,
minutes,
yeah,
15,
15 something, almost
16
16.
minutes. Triple threat was 14 plus, right?
Mhm.
Just a sprint. Um, I love Hazuki versus Mercedes. It's a pretty dang long match. I gotta have some time carved out to
27
rewatch that
minutes, yeah.
match. So yeah.
That's a great. Yeah, I think the number one is clear cut. I mean, like I said, we're not just saying it. Sports Illustrated said it, and it felt like it was so undeniable that an awards that were all heavily AEW, they couldn't deny this one match,
Yep.
which says a lot. But yeah, I don't think anybody could really argue against it. I mean, if you want to say Saya Tam, fine, but I don't watch Saya Tam. I can't watch a 36-minute match that long, that many times.
Yeah, I agree. I had zero issue putting this number one. I thought about it long enough just to be sure I was right, in fairness to the other matches, but it's pretty much a slam dunk. So our top five women of the year. I am personally not going to do any honorable mention because I want to focus on my five, and I'm just going to commit to the five that I have. You have a tie for fifth.
Mhm.
Um, so do you want me to go first with my fifth, or do you want to go first with your tie?
Okay, so I'll go first with my tie, and I want to preface this because I want to spend some time here because my list will. So far, we have been chalk on the top two for each category, right?
Yeah.
I actually was surprised that you had Tam and Saya as number two. I was actually betting that Jamie Mercedes would have been your number two, and I was betting that Persephone Mercedes, but they were on the list. So I mean, they did make the cut. Um, and then our top two segments were the same. So this will be a controversial list, definitely from my perspective. So here's what I want to preface. When you say the word wrestler of the year, right? By definition, you're mostly talking about in-ring. So I kind of look at this as my top five wrestlers slash performers of the year. Like it wasn't just the theatrics of the match, it was the stuff they did in addition to the match. And my top, well, my number five, which is two women, I have in this category for the same reason, which is I think from a match standpoint, both improved where they were previous years, but I think it's the stuff they did outside of the ring that I just look at 2025. If I could tell the story of women's wrestling in six or seven women, would these women be on my list? And these two women have to be on the list. So number five, tie, is Naomi. I've talked about her a lot. I just thought she had the most compelling women's character this year. She had a really, really good match in the triple threat match with Rhea and Io at SummerSlam. That was kind of her landmark moment match in terms of in the ring. But if you think of the segments this year that stuck out, we just gave Naomi number one, and I feel like her character glued me into television more as a performer than anybody else. Not as a wrestler, but as a performer. The other person I have, and now here's where the controversy kicks in, Alexa Bliss. Same reason. If I think of performative moments this year, she had the loudest pop at the Royal Rumble, where everything was set up for her soon to be partner to get the big pop, but she got it. And then I really thought that what she did with the Charlotte stuff was really entertaining and great television. Like she brought out a side of Charlotte that we've never seen before. And I really thought it kind of saved Charlotte's career because she was going nowhere fast after the Tiffany debacle. And I just looked at the things Alexa did backstage where she was like the camera work with her and Charlotte, and she's trying to get Charlotte to see that they should be allies. And let's be honest, one of my favorite, we talk about TV matches next year. But the tag match that her and Charlotte had with Bailey and Lyra might have been my favorite tag match of the year. And so I think from an in-ring standpoint, I think Alexa, she's never going to be top 10, top 15 in the ring, maybe top 20. But I feel like she made enough strides this year in the ring, along with what she gave me outside of the ring. So I have those two women for the same reason. Like it's not just wrestling, it's their characters were compelling to me. So those are my two.
So you kind of went total performer of the
Yeah.
year as your, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we will have different lists. Yeah. I uh I have at number five. We've been a little negative on this person just because the sky is so high and so much more could be done. You said about an hour ago in this episode that, she could have dominated 2025. The feeling was there. So for a minute, I knocked her out of my top five. My number five is Stephanie Vaquer. And I was like, yeah, the momentum is slowed. But then I looked back, she did defeat Io Sky to win the Women's World Championship. She did hold the NXT Women's title and North American Women's title at the same time. She did win the Battle Royal that happened over your shoulder while we were recording this on Evolution. Um, and if we're looking at calendar 2025, she didn't, that knocks that one loss she had in NXT off of her belt. She had that great match with Julia in NXT. And I think, she's been one of the most dominant performers in wrestling. So all the complaints are just because she can be so good, but she did have um, a top 5 year. So I have Stephanie Vaquer as my number five. My number four, um, if I use your rules, it probably makes her even stronger as number four, even if it's not necessarily my cup of tea, um, necessarily, except for some of the stuff earlier. But Tony Storm is my number four. Um, she won the biggest women's match of the year in her company. She won the second biggest women's match of the year in her company. Um, and if you just look at AEW only, she's the dominant woman in her company. So I have Tony Storm as my number four. Um, both those matches, not only did she win, but they delivered what they were supposed to, right? The Hollywood ending was a 5-star match, as loved by the AEW audience. And then the Mercedes match, she won. And again, like we said, I think it, on a 5-6 hour card in not the greatest spot, third to last or second to last. Um, it got the crowd reaction it needed. It was very, very well wrestled, had big moments, and kind of befit the Tony Storm character. So I had her at number four.
My number four is exactly the same person you had, Tony Storm. And I think if Tony Storm ended, like if let's just say she had the match with Mercedes, and then for whatever reason she said, I don't want to work the rest of the year, she might have been even higher on my list. I think since the Mercedes match, her character and what they've done with her has kind of dropped her.
Yeah.
But up to the Mercedes match, she had a legitimate case to be number one,
Yeah.
honestly. I thought that she did some of the best. I mean, I say Saya is the person that glues me to my screen. Naomi was very compelling, but I forget, and this is the thing, right? Like when you do a whole year, you forget sometimes about how compelling Tony Storm was for 7 months of the year.
Yeah.
Like Tony Storm was must-see TV for 7 months of the year. She cut the best promos. She had the best segments. She was unbelievable. And she is somebody that I really, really thought would have been higher, quite honestly, the way she was going. So Tony Storm is my number three.
You're number four.
Number four, number four. Now, this is where the controversy begins with me. And I want to set the precedent before who I announce, because everybody knows who I'm going to announce, because I'm prefacing it because I'm going to get venom here. So Mercedes is number three, and here's why she's number three. Sometimes you can be a victim of your own success. So I look at Mercedes last year. She had three of my five favorite matches in one year. The two Chris matches, the Hazuki match. Hazuki match was my number one match of the year. In 2025, she did not have any of my top five matches. Now, does that mean that being number three is bad? No, but most people, and I agree, if this is like Woman of the Year and the most impactful award, and look, she could be number one, she could be number two, she could be number three. There's no wrong answer here. But I look at Mercedes this year, how I look at Nas as a rapper, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this. So when I look at a career, I look at stuff that I like, but I don't love. Nas, since 2020, has put out music I like, but I don't love like I loved the previous body of work. So it's like for me with Mercedes this year, I liked everything she did. I didn't love, I didn't love the Jamie match, I would say is a love, but other than that, I liked everything. But so to me, like when I just think of my like, okay, this is the person who's bringing me to my screen. I spent more money on Mercedes than anybody else this year because I ordered everything. But she's my number three person. But if I were to say she's number one, I could be right there. She could be number two. She's my number three simply because none of her matches to me were like I rewatched a bunch of times, other than the Jamie match. She's my number three. Do I go two or do I let you
Nope,
go?
I go three.
Okay.
I think you'll look back and you turn into that's a Steve Nash MVP voter analogy. Kobe Bryant just put up 35.7 points per game, but you were sick of him, and so I'm just messing
No,
with
no,
you.
no. I
But
don't, I don't, I
but
don't, I don't think she had the 35-point Kobe Bryant here. I think she had the 2009 Kobe Bryant year where he won the title, where he got all the accolades, but it wasn't as good as the 2006 year as an individual. But
I disagree because she's been wrestling with some Smush Parkers and putting points up
well,
there. But
okay, so
no,
go with your number three.
my so I have your number one at number three. You probably have my number one at number three. I have EO Sky um, at number three, and I tried my hardest to. You made a case against Mercedes. I did my best to make a case for EO Sky. And my best case for EO Sky is number three, which is why I have her ahead of where like PWI had her at number six. She was great in 4 months of this year. Great.
Hmm.
She was good in 3 months of the year. And as a victim of WWE and or injury, as we talked about earlier, she was largely irrelevant-ish in a wrestling ring for 5 months of this year, where nothing we will remember in a later year happened. And based on the 5 months, if they would have just booked her on the five great months, if they would have just booked her on the other 5 months, I would have probably seen her higher. But even since the Stephanie match, she hasn't done anything meaningful in September that would be wrestler of the year to me. There hasn't been anything that would say this is the best wrestler in the world since the Stephanie match because she's been in this Rhea thing. She even had a worse War Games than Mercedes did. And War Games is her match. But I thought Mercedes had a better War Games performance than Io Sky did this year because the match was better and her stuff was better in the match. So I actually tried to argue on Io's side of things, and that had her go up for me to 3. I just think WWE, and if she had an injury, then I have to withdraw that statement. But I think that they kind of failed her for some parts of the year when she was at her hottest. Um, I do think that she has the best top end matches this year. Absolutely, she does. She only wrestled 16 singles matches this year, which was not enough for me to name her number one. Um, 14 of them were on TV and 2 were house shows. So she had 14 singles matches on TV, just a little over one a month. It just wasn't enough volume for me. That's why I have her at number 3. The work she did was as good as any woman could ever put up in 14, 16 matches, whatever you want to say. There's not a clunker in the bunch. Her segments were incredible. Her character's the best it's ever been. So I don't want to make it sound like a negative thing. To your point, third is not bad, but I don't I think she's in her prime, and I would have the Rhea Io back and forth thing doesn't scream best wrestler in the world for me, and that's what October, November, December has been, right? In this kind of best friend thing. And I didn't like it when it was Sasha Banks and Bailey, right? When it was Boston Hug and it was the best friend back and forth thing. Now they weren't booked nearly as well as Rhea and Io, but it's just not. It's kind of a Boston Hug story.
It's more Boston Hug than it is Golden Role Models. If it was Golden Role Models, it would absolutely, because I thought like the Golden Role Models, I thought they were the two best women wrestlers in the world, Sasha and
A
Bailey
hundred percent. Oh,
that
if
year,
it was
right?
Golden Role Models, I would be arguing that it's raised EO's profile, but it's more Boston Hug than it is Golden Role Models right now.
So you're number two, or do you want me to go?
Oh, my number 2. My number 2 is Saya. Um, I also tried to make the argument for her at number 1. And I think she has a very compelling argument to be number 1. What the tiebreaker came down to. Should I just do my number 1 since it's very obvious? I want to
Yeah,
talk about it together. My
yeah.
tiebreaker, the reason I put Mercedes in at number 1 and Saya in at number 2 is Saya has a lot of volume, but the way Stardom does things, it's a lot of tag volume as well.
Mhm.
They do singles matches because their singles matches are so brutal and long. They save their bodies by doing a lot of tag matches. So that part I get. I also think that she had a lull in the middle of the year, right? She had a very strong first 5 months, and she had a very strong last couple of months when she won the when Wrestle Kingdom and all that got announced, and she's been building towards that. So I have her at number 2.
Mhm.
I have Mercedes at number 1, and it's because of several things that I looked into. She's 32-4 in singles matches this year. So there's a level of velocity wrestling singles with a spotlight that no other woman met this year. Now that house shows don't happen, 36 matches is a crap ton of matches to have as a singles performer that you can't tag out of the match, um, and all that. 32-4. Like I said, Tony would rank ahead of her if it was just AEW stuff, but she's been world champion. She's been a world champion for all of every single day but 30 days. She had the NJPW Strong Championship, lost it, and within 30 days won the CMLL title. So she's been a women's world champion for 335 days. She was the TBS champion for the entire year. I think the TBS championship is the number one women's title in the world. That's not a world title. It's booked as the best title in the world. It's defended the most of any other title because she's defended it. She's main evented shows for CMLL, AEW, not a pay-per-view, but she has main evented AEW shows, Rev Pro, NJPW. She main evented NJPW Strong over the or NJPW over the men. That's never happened when the men's title has been on the show. And beyond all that, I looked for consistency. So in January, she won the Rev Pro title in Tokyo. February, she had the big match against Harley Cameron in Australia. She had a great match against Momo in March. And then in April, things really turned up. In April, she had Jamie, Kanji, or not Jamie, sorry, Athena, Kanji, Julia Hart. May was Jamie. June was her only lull, and that was all promo-ish stuff against Tony, but she did win the CMLL title from Zeuxis in June. She had the Tony match in July. Um, September, she had the Riho match. Um, and then October and November, we'll run out of time for me to even go through it, but she had the most prolific 2 months of any women's wrestler, maybe ever, through October and November. The amount of singles matches she had, the amount of countries she wrestled in, belts she won. Um, so I actually thought that her October, November is what sealed it for me because she went on this incredible run, winning um, multiple additional titles. Jody Threat had the Persephone match, won the Nor Diana match where she main evented House of Glory. She did lose the Chris match in November. So Mercedes kind of slammed home the Wrestler of the Year for me with this October, November prolific, high quality stuff. She may not have had a top five match. Persephone was the best match in that October, November, and the Chris match. But she didn't phone in any one of those matches either when she was traveling all over the world. There was no easy matches in there. She put a full best foot forward in every one of those. And the three countries, three championship matches in 3 days, I think is something that will never be matched again. Mexico, United States, Canada. I don't think anyone will ever do that again in 3 days.
It's a lot of trouble. So what, before I give you my top two in the order that I have them, what would Saya have needed to do to be number one? Because from a quality of match standpoint, not quantity,
Well,
Saya this year arguably had in my opinion, a much better year than Mercedes. Like, if you take her top five matches, they're better to me than the top five Mercedes matches. Saya.
right.
But you said something about the lull. Are you talking about when she was just working tag matches, or are you talking about when she just
When
wasn't
she
working?
was working tag matches, yeah. The other thing that Io and Saya, you know, they're wrestling the same women that they've wrestled for years to have these matches, right? They have a history with every one of these women. And the quality that Mercedes put up with women that she met the day of the match, and it was still extremely high quality stuff with Alice Inc., with Jody Threat, um, with Emerson Jane, which is a match you love.
I do.
Um,
I do. That was my third highest ranked Mercedes match.
so I
10th.
don't I I don't think Saya could have beat her this year because I think Mercedes put on a Pantheon level year, and it's one of the greatest years any women have had in wrestling history. That's why I made the Kobe joke. Um, I think that we'll look back and go, the 18 months for sure is the greatest 18-month stretch I've ever seen, but I could only evaluate the 12, and you do lose the Hazuki match in the first two Chris matches, but I think her October, November resealed it that this was her year. And I just don't think anyone's ever done this. And I think doing something unprecedented, um, was something that couldn't be overcome by anyone else.
So as a person who does own a a very dear to me Kobe Bryant autograph basketball, my most prized possession, and somebody who's watched every game of his career. The thing So when I think of 2006 Kobe, right, which was the analogy you made, he has the game against Dallas where he scored 62 points in three quarters. He has the Raptors game, obviously, where he scored 81. Everyone remembers that game. And, he had a game against the Clippers where he had 50, but they were losing it. Like, I remember all the years, everything he did in '06, I remember. Yeah, he did it with Smush Parker. The thing for me with Mercedes in 2025 is I am, if I were to rank her top 5 to 10 matches of all time, I don't think she has one of those matches in this year to me.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have and I have watched the match above your shoulder more than I think I've watched any women's match ever. Um, and I've watched the Hell in a Cell. I watched Becky Hell in a Cell this year with her more than I watched any one of her matches that she had this year.
Yeah.
I watched Suzuki more this year than I have any of her matches this year. So it's not even a knock because the degree of difficulty is much harder than what Io or Saya are doing, which is, like you said, Saya and Io are wrestling these women that are, by the way, the other factor in where you can give Mercedes the nod is that the women on the other end of Io, Rhea, Bianca, Stephanie Vaquer, and then on Saya, which is Azumi, Tam Nakano, and Suzuki, are better women's wrestlers than the women Mercedes had to face this year, right? Like there's nobody Mercedes, maybe Chris, but I don't think Chris is as good as Tam Nakano, and I don't think Chris is as
No.
good as
And that
well.
and that's kind
Yeah.
of
So
that's
so
kind of what I put into it is like, does she have a top five match on your list? She doesn't, but she's got 20 matches worth considering in the top 50,
yeah, she has
with 20 different
like
women.
a body of work, like a
Yeah.
composition that is really good. It's like tremendous, right? So for me, uh, so that's why Mercedes was three. So let me get to my top two. My number two person was Saya, just like yours. Um, Saya had a real easy case for number one. I went back and forth on this one. My first draft had Io, then I went Saya, then I went back to Io. I went to Saya, I went to Io. I went back and forth. It took me a couple of like 2 hours before we started to record to settle on Saya. And the only reason is, and it's not a knock against her, it's just the stage she did it on isn't going to be as big as the stage Io had to do it on. And she doesn't have the constraints in Stardom that Io will have in the WWE world because of the style that they have to wrestle. So I thought for the first time this year, Io got to be Io in WWE with a character, which was very important to me. Io is my number one performer simply because, just going back to my Nas analogy, Io gave me Illmatic and Io gave me It Was Written in the same year. She gave me maybe the best women's match ever, and she might have given me one of the other great women's matches of all time with Rhea. So I just feel like I look at quality over quantity. I look at her character growth, and I feel like the one thing you could say is that Io, more than any other women's wrestler, kind of came into her own on a microphone and in front of an audience more this year than anybody else. Like Io went from legitimately, think about our conversations in 2024 after she lost the match to Lyra. Would Io even make the WrestleMania card?
Right.
Those were legitimate conversations we had on this show.
Yeah.
Her beating the two pillars of the women's division at WrestleMania to her being in a commercial for WrestleMania where she has her own segment where she's talking, right? Like they've given Io the microphone in the middle of an audience by herself and she's getting a reaction and she's super over and people are making signs with this. So I think she is my number one performer wrestler of the year because her in-ring quality was better or as good as Sai, I don't want to say better. And I think just as a performer, she really blossomed into somebody that is a legitimate draw and a top tier baby face. And I don't think we've ever seen that with a Japanese performer in the United States, male or female,
Think
on the main.
that's a great argument, counter argument to what I was saying. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm uh what talking down on EO, and we don't discuss this ahead of time, so on the fly, but I do love the argument that what propels her, okay, she didn't have enough matches, but she went from, yeah, she might miss the Mania card to who gets to wrestle her at Mania next year, right? There's an ascendance to what she did this year that does make a great argument for her ranking this year. So I think that's very well put on your end. Performer growth, standalone segments, all that. We were excited to have them before if we got them, and now we would assume that she's got her place in concrete. So that's a great way to look at it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that, our top five is a list that I think when we do the awards next year or next week, it'll be a little bit more cut and dry because I think we have to factor in a lot of different factors, not just personal preference. So,
Right.
yeah, that's our top five. Please, in our comments and all of our platforms, respond to us. Let us know what you think. If you think it's laughable, if you think it's great, we're all here for the criticism. And on that note, I think it's a good place to end, and we will wrap the year next year on the balance sheet.
We will. Coming to you next week, we will have an expanded version of this. There won't be top fives, but we are going to name our awards. There's some consensus on these three categories. There's some debate. So there will be a one performer winner for each category, and it will be the balance sheet winner. But some fun additional categories we'll have. We're going to have the tag team of the year. We're going to have the tag team match of the year. We're going to have the best show of the year, which Raj may have given a spoiler on that one, but I don't think anyone will be shocked on that. We'll have best promotion as far as the women are concerned of the year. Um, and then, of course, your best wrestlers, your best match, and some other fun stuff like that. So, looking forward to you guys tuning back in. I hope you guys enjoyed this show as we recap 2025 best year ever in women's wrestling. Quite possibly so.
All right. On that note, we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Hope your uncle is doing well.